Before we get into the next section of the top 100, I just wanted to show you guys what we've been dealing with up here in Michigan. A lot of snow, very cold. Gross. Hey Brew Crew, welcome back to the channel. At this point in the list, we are well past the warm-up and into the games that I absolutely love. These are games that will always stay in my collection. Games that I don't just enjoy playing, but games that I'll continue thinking about long after the table's been cleared. This stretch of games, games 30 through 21, is where a lot of the design philosophies that I love start to overlap. Many of these games blend several of my favorite mechanisms together, although there are definitely a few that have very unique ways in how they play and how they feel. Some of them are very heavy and demanding, some are deceptively simple but brutally sharp. All of them are amazing. As always, this is my personal top 100, not a statement of objective greatness, just a snapshot of what resonates with me, my group, and the kind of decisions that I enjoy making at the table. All right, let's get into it.
30.
Coming in at number 30 is Terra Mystica. This is a heavy, asymmetric Euro all about expansion. Each player controls a faction with its own relationship to terrain and resources, which really helps you define your strategy for each game. At the heart of Terra Mystica is the terraforming system. You are converting terrain into your faction's home type, which lets you build and expand. But because space is tight and shared, every placement matters. Where you build, when you build, and who you build next to all feed into the game's power economy. That power system is one of the most interesting parts of the design. Power cycles between bowls, can be spent in different ways, and rewards careful timing rather than brute force accumulation. Add in the cult track, round-based scoring bonuses, and a very tight resource economy, and Terra Mystica becomes a game where planning several rounds ahead really matters. What I really love about Terra Mystica is how your income is tied to how effectively you've built out on the map. Every new building you place will earn you income, but at a certain point you need to make the decision to pull back some of those buildings in order to place an even larger building, and trying to determine that timing is a big reason why I love this game. I also really love games that give me unique faction ability, and Terra Mystica has a bunch to choose from. It's crunchy, it's challenging, and you're always bumping into someone else on the map, making things super intense.
29.
Number 29 is Scythe. Scythe looks like a war game, but it's more of a resource generator. You're trying to build an engine faster and cleaner than everyone else using a very simple action selection system. Each turn you choose a top row action, and if you can afford it, also perform the paired bottom row action. I love the tension that this creates between wanting to take a certain action now, but should you wait until you can afford to do both actions instead? Your faction board and player mat also introduce asymmetry that subtly nudge you to certain strategies, but it doesn't lock you in. Area control and combat exist, but they are carefully constrained. Combat is expensive and limited, which makes positioning and deterrence just as important as actually winning the fights. The game ends when somebody has hit a set number of achievements, which helps keep the pacing tight, and it rewards efficient play. It also typically leads to a very exciting endgame scenario, at least in our experience, where you can see that somebody is just about to end the game, and how do you rush for those last few points that you really need to hopefully win. This game has been a favorite of mine for quite a while, especially with the different expansions. I will say that with a lower player count, I tend to reach for expeditions, whereas I love Scythe at a full player count. And that's because everybody is immediately on top of each other, and it really forces you to optimize your play and build yourself up as soon as possible.
28.
At number 28, I have Smartphone Inc., which is an economic game that's all about being in the right place at the right time. It combines a really clever action selection mechanism with a surprisingly interactive market. At the start of each round, players secretly program their actions by stacking tiles in such a way that the number of icons showing for an action determines the strength or the number of times that you can do that action. So you're committing to a round strategy before seeing what everyone else is doing. Once revealed, those actions drive everything from production to pricing to expansion, and the market system is where the game really shines. All other things being equal, customers will almost always purchase the cheaper phones first, which means the company that sets their price low gets to act first. And because there are only a limited number of customers each round, this means that there's a very real chance that your competition will scoop up all of the customers before you have a chance to sell your phones. This is a great example of mechanisms supporting the theme. The technology upgrades also permanently improve your action efficiency, creating a strong sense of engine growth over the course of the game. I feel like this is one of the most clever designs on this portion of my top 100. It doesn't just tweak existing mechanisms, it comes up with fresh new ideas and then adds more.
27.
Coming in at number 27 is Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a tight interactive Euro from Stefan Feld that focuses on card drafting and area influence in medieval Paris. Each round, players draft cards that determine which actions they'll take, and just as importantly, which actions they will deny to others. Those cards are then used to activate different districts, each with its own benefits and scoring opportunities. What really defines Notre Dame is pressure. You always feel like you're just short of being able to do what you want to do, and each decision feels incredibly important. That being said, though, it's also an extremely elegant design, and the gameplay is ultra smooth. It also plays in no time at all, while still giving you a very robust game experience. It's a compact game, but it demands constant attention and smart prioritization. The biggest negative about this game, those rats are a frickin' menace.
26.
My number 26, Merlin, is another Feld design, and fair warning, you're about to see a lot more Felds coming up. They are littered throughout these remaining videos. This is Feld's take on the roll and move mechanism, and it actually makes it interesting. The game revolves around moving your knights around a shared board, triggering actions based on where they land. Because you can move either your knight or the shared Merlin figure, it actually provides some meaningful decisions, something that's really missing from a lot of roll and move games. You're working to build up influence, gain territory, and repel invaders, while area control and set collection provide multiple overlapping paths to score points. Merlin rewards flexibility, but requires you to plan carefully. This game took a little bit for me to really begin to appreciate. The addition of the expansions helped quite a bit since they opened up that decision space quite a bit. This is now a game that I always look forward to playing.
25.
Forges of Ravenshire is my number 25, a game that I feel is criminally underrated on Board Game Geek. It's a modern Euro focused on engine building and resource conversion. It uses dice worker placement, one of my favorite mechanisms, to gather resources, upgrade forges, and build powerful engines. Over time, those upgrades compound, letting you do more with less, and creating a really strong sense of progression. What really makes this game, though, are the assistants. You can choose not to play with them, but I think that's a big mistake, as this is really what elevates this from a good game to a great one. Each assistant has an incredibly powerful ability. Think Marco Polo level of abilities. These add so much variation to the gameplay and strategy. Sam, I'm begging you for an expansion that adds more factions and more assistants. Each round has a great feeling of progression. You have 3 dice as your workers, and each turn you'll place a die and then take a die, activating each location to gather resources. The color of the die you take also determines which guild you'll activate, allowing you to get even more stuff. Once you've taken your 3 turns and you have your 3 new dice, you'll use those for even more actions. As the game goes on and you improve your guild and your forges, things really start to snowball, and it feels like you just hit the jackpot on a slot machine. Every round feels good. It feels like you're always accomplishing something, and when you don't, you notice it. Especially since everyone is getting all of these resources all the time, so it's very important to try to keep up. And because there are only 4 rounds, this puts pressure on players to optimize quickly and make tough choices about which upgrades to pursue. But again, those assistants will really help you develop a strategy. This is such a great game and deserves to be much higher on the BGG rankings, so if you haven't tried it and our tastes align at all, definitely check it out.
24.
At number 24 is Targi, an incredible 2-player game and one of the most clever worker placement games that I've ever played. Players place workers around the edge of a 5x5 grid of cards, taking the action printed on that card. You'll do this 3 times, and then both players will look where their workers' paths would intersect on the grid, and they will claim the card that's in that space. Some of these cards will give you more resources, while others will give you scoring opportunities at the end of the game. What I love about Targi is the amount of tension that you feel every turn. There are strict rules about placing your workers, which means it's very easy to get blocked out of a spot that you wanted. And because you're placing 1 worker at a time, if there's a card that you really want, you're spending your opponent's turn trying to perform some Jedi mind tricks, trying to make them go literally anywhere else. It's tight, the gameplay is super clean, and it plays fairly quick for the amount of depth that you get out of the experience. This is one that I almost always recommend when folks are looking for a 2-player game, especially now that it's actually available again.
23.
Coming in at number 23 is San Juan. This is a streamlined, card-driven engine builder that distills the core ideas of Puerto Rico into a faster, leaner experience. Basically, Puerto Rico the card game. Each round, players select a role that everyone benefits from, but the chooser gets a bonus. If I haven't mentioned before how much I enjoy that kind of action selection mechanism, I'm mentioning it now. Cards serve as the buildings, the goods, and the currency, which force tough decisions about how to use the limited resources. If I want to pay to play a card in front of me, I may be giving up other good cards as well, so it forces me to think about my moves very carefully. Your engine slowly comes together through smart combos based on the cards that you've played, and the race-based endgame keeps the tension high. The game ends once someone has built their 12th building, and then you'll tally up your final score. Between this and the action selection mechanism, you're always paying attention to what your opponents are doing. I really enjoy Race for the Galaxy. It was also in my top 100 at number 81, but San Juan is so clean and so much easier to teach, so it's much easier to get this one to the table.
22.
Number 22 is A Feast for Odin. This is my second highest rated game from Uwe Rosenberg, and definitely the biggest game from him that I've ever played. This is a very sandbox-style worker placement game. You are in full control of your Viking village, and there are so many different strategies and different paths you can take. Without a doubt, the game can look incredibly overwhelming when you first see the board and it's 60 some odd worker placement spaces. But it all starts to make sense fairly quickly because each row of spaces is more or less a variation on one certain type of action. And the big decision revolves around how many of your workers do you want to spend to take a more powerful action. There are so many things that you can do in this game. You can go whaling, go raiding, emigrate your Vikings to other lands. The main thing is just to make sure that you are covering up all of the negative spaces on your player board, or any additional boards that you may have taken, which seems impossible in your first game, but after a few games, it becomes much less intimidating.
21.
And finally, the last game on this portion of the list, my number 21, is Discworld Ankh-Morpork. This is such a clever game by one of my favorite designers of all time, Martin Wallace. Everyone has a secret objective that they're trying to complete, and while everyone knows what the objectives could potentially be, you don't really know for sure who has what until someone wins. That means that while you're playing, you need to try to throw everyone off. Are you trying to control territory, gain money, just outlast the deck of cards? All of this sneaking around is really what makes this game so great, and I'm usually side-eyeing everyone the entire game. The gameplay itself is very simple. Play a card, do what it says. But within that, there's a ton of tactical and strategic depth. I usually get in trouble for saying this, but I've never actually read any of the Discworld novels, but I don't feel like that's impacted my enjoyment of the game at all. Obviously, since we're all the way up here at number 21. This is a game that the first time we played it, we ended up playing it twice in a row because I was so fascinated by it. Obviously, the Discworld version of this game is pretty difficult to find, but I've been told that the new rethemed version, Nanti Narking, is essentially the same game. So while I wouldn't recommend overpaying for the Discworld version like someone I know, you can always give Nanti Narking a try and see if it's for you. All right, everyone, that's it for numbers 30 through 21. We are getting so close to the end of this list now, and I am very excited to finally get to my top 10. Let me know in the comments which of these games you love, which ones you think I've way overrated, and if you've read them, let me know which Discworld book I should start out reading. From what I understand, there's only 129 to choose from. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, hyping, and subscribing, and all that other good YouTube stuff. It really does help the channel get found by more people. We are getting so close to 1,000 subs, and I need to start thinking about what we're going to do to celebrate once we hit that milestone. Thanks so much for watching. That's all for me today, and until the next one, let's get another round for the table.